Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Brett Griffin-Young. I'm the International Outreach Associate for Surrogacy. Basically, I look after Europe. And I have 15 minutes to tell you about how wonderful surrogacy is. And that's kind of a tough job to do. Not because we're not wonderful, but because 15 minutes is not a tremendous amount of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reel off a few facts about the agency, just to give you an idea of how long we've been around and what we do and so on. And then, if you've got the opportunity, come upstairs and have a conversation with me. And if nothing else, leave me your details, because I'm more than happy to follow up with Skype consultations and so on. I'm based in the UK, so for the vast majority of you, I'm going to be a maximum of an hour behind you time-wise. And I'm more than happy to consult in the evenings and so on as well. It's when I tend to do most of my work anyway. I am a dad to 2 small children. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so they kind of keep me quite busy. So let me just start off then by talking a bit about Circle then. So really, Circle's one of the oldest and certainly the largest agency in the US. We've been around for almost 20 years now. We've had 1,000 babies born through the program. We've just celebrated the 1,000th birth about a week ago. John Weltman, our president and founder, is recognized as an international expert on surrogacy. He himself and his husband are dads through surrogacy. Both of their children are in college or university, as we would say here in Europe. So they're grown-up boys. They did this a long time ago. He began his surrogacy legal work in 1992, so again, a good 20-something years of experience there. And then he went on to found Circle in 1995, so we're coming up for the 20th anniversary of Circle Surrogacy. It's one of the very few exclusively gay-owned agencies, and that doesn't mean that we don't work with heterosexual couples. It just means that we genuinely understand the issues that gay parents will face. And having worked in over 70 countries now, including the likes of Afghanistan, we've got a pretty good idea on how to move children from the US back to your home country. Most of the countries in Europe, it's a relatively easy procedure. It's complicated in the sense that there's a lot of red tape, depending on the country that you're in, but it's not an impossible thing to do at all. And I myself have had a child through the program. He is 5 years old now, brought him back to the UK. I've experienced exactly what it's all about. And there is a tremendous amount of red tape, but if things are done correctly at the beginning, there's no issues at the end. You just need to make sure that you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing. This is not adopting a dog. This is creating a human life in a foreign country that is not an EU country. So you need to make sure that everything is done correctly right at the very beginning. A couple of other points. I suppose this is where I've got my 15 minutes to get my information across. Outside of the US, the largest number of our intended parents actually come from Western Europe, which shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. We do have emerging markets in China, which are becoming more and more aware of surrogacy in the US, and we've taken on Mandarin speakers. On staff, we have a lot of French speakers as well. French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, Ukrainian speakers all on staff. We travel regularly into Europe, various countries, to meet with people face-to-face. So we will do consultations. We're traveling to Germany in a couple of weeks. We're doing Frankfurt. I'm probably going to add Munich to that as well. We've had quite a few German gentlemen from Munich come and speak to me today. Then we've got Sweden, Norway, coming up to France, and so on. We're in Europe, in a European country, pretty much every month of the year through the course of the 12 months. So you'll always find us. If we're not in your local area, we're more than happy to do the consultations by Skype as well. And like I said, that would most likely be with myself and then one of the lawyers in Boston, and we would work that to your times as well. We don't sort of insist that you do it during office hours or anything like that. We're quite happy to do weekends or evenings, whatever really suits you. We can work around that. We have nearly 100% success rate with our parents, and the reason why it's only nearly 100% is because obviously we work with some heterosexual couples, and there are occasions where it is a heterosexual woman who wishes to use her own biology, and for whatever reason that is not working, and she will not switch to an egg donor. Therefore, they will choose to leave the program without a baby because she doesn't want to try with an egg donor. As far as the gay couples are concerned, it's a 100% success rate. We keep going. We don't leave you until you have a baby, and that's not a pregnancy, that is a baby that you've brought home. We work with amongst the best IVF clinics in the US, and we've got good experience with them. We've got good relationships with them. So when we introduce you to them, you get to make the choice as to who you want to work with. But there is no awkwardness. There's no sort of who are you and what exactly do you need. We have the relationship with them that when we introduce you, they know who you are and they know what your requirements are, and will welcome you into the clinic with open arms, really. And you don't feel as if you have to explain anything. Your situation is dealt with in advance. Just around a little bit around the surrogates that we work with, the applications that we receive, in excess of 1,000 a month, want to be surrogates with Circle. You met one of them this morning, if you were at the seminars. One of our surrogates was on the panel. We accept between 15 and 20 of those 1,500, roughly, women that apply every month. It's a very, very strict, very thorough process. And in fact, Circle is considered to be one of the agencies of choice for the surrogates. And that's one of the reasons why my husband Matthew and I went for Circle, was because the surrogates all felt really strongly that that was the agency they wanted to work with, because if they made it as a Circle surrogate, they really felt like they'd made it. But also from a protection point of view for them, we're a relationship-based agency, so we insist that you have a relationship with your surrogate. She's not a uterus with legs. She is a woman, and she is doing the most amazing thing for you, and you need to treat her with respect. And with respect comes a relationship. And to give you an idea, we don't expect you to become best friends with your surrogate. In many cases, that does actually happen, all on its own. My son, like I say, is 5 years old, and my surrogate was sending me photos yesterday of cowboy boots that she's busy shopping for him. We have a 4th of July party every year for Sebastian, because he's half American. And she always sends over an outfit, and part of that this year is going to be new cowboy boots. So she's still in our lives, but she doesn't interfere in our lives in any way. She's not taking over or influencing any of our decisions or the way that he behaves. She is just there as a friend. And I think Norma will be a part of our lives forever. Keeping the costs down, I suppose that's one of the big questions everybody has is, how much is this going to cost me? I'm not going to quote you any prices now, because the bottom line is this: it depends on what you need. Do you need an egg donor, or do you have a family member who's going to donate eggs? Because that's going to impact on how much this is going to cost you. Which IVF clinic you choose to work with. Are you the sort of people that when you travel to the US, you're happy to stay at the Best Western? Or are you the sort of people that insists on staying at the Ritz in downtown LA? Those are the sorts of things that will affect how much your journey is going to cost you. But we offer now an unlimited matching program to all of our intended parents. So what that basically means to you is that it doesn't matter if it takes one surrogate and one egg donor to get you a baby or two, or whether it takes you 5 surrogates and 10 egg donors. One of the things I will say to you about surrogacy and IVF in general is it's 99% science and 1% magic. There is always an element of it might not work the first time, it might not work the second time. It didn't for us. We got pregnant on the 3rd attempt, and we tried for twins, and we got a singleton. I know other couples who've got pregnant on the very first attempt, boy-girl twins, and it's all wonderful. But there is that element of it may not work the first time, may not work the second time. It might be a case that your surrogate, although checks out absolutely fine, gets to the 3rd attempt and still isn't pregnant. We'll then be having a conversation with you saying, right, we probably need to look at trying a different surrogate. Now, in the past, there would have been a cost attached to that, because there was a rematch fee, and we have to go through a social work screening process with the surrogates and so on. That is now all gone away. What we found is that by sort of standardizing the pricing structure, it just means that most of the couples will have one surrogate and everything will be fine, but there will be those cases where you might require an extra surrogate. You might need to switch surrogates, or egg donors for that matter, and then there won't be any extra cost to yourself. So it's very much a case of you will pay a set fee and you're guaranteed a baby at the end of that process. Okay, it's not going to cost you. There's no hidden costs. There's no surprises. All of our legal work is done in-house. So it's not even a case of, well, if we need to spend 20 hours on your case or 60 hours on your case, you don't pay any extra for that. It is a flat fee that you'll be paying. As far as the insurance side of things is concerned, one of the most terrifying things about surrogacy is the insurance. They don't have socialized medicine like we have in Europe, so you do need to have insurance. Now, we work with the surrogates and make sure that their insurance will cover the cost of the pregnancy and the birth and so on. And it's something that we're experts in. We have a legal team in the office who do nothing but look at insurance policies of the surrogates to make sure that they will cover the costs of your pregnancy and your birth. So it really is something that you can come into with confidence. I always say to people, when it comes to surrogacy, it's probably the biggest expense you're ever going to make without actually getting to see the end product If you're going to buy a house, you go and have a look at the house, you measure up the windows for curtains and so on, you buy a car, you'll take it for a test drive, a boat, same thing. With a baby, with surrogacy, there's a massive unknown. And at some point, you have to take a leap of faith. And I just think back to my personal experience when we first signed up with Circle back in 2008, my husband and I. The first thing I said to him was, we need to book a flight to Boston. I need to go see the building. I need to make sure that there's bricks and mortar and that the place actually exists. And it was that feeling of, I need to have some faith here that this is going to be fine. And by December 2009, we had a newborn baby in our arms, and changed our lives forever. My second child, we actually went through an adoption process for. We'd always talked about adoption, and we adopted an 8-month-old baby. I'm now in the early stages of negotiating with my husband for a third child. He's quite keen that 2's plenty. I really want another one. And I will definitely do surrogacy again, not because I have anything against adoption. I just feel the surrogacy journey was considerably more, I felt more in control of the surrogacy journey, and you kind of know what you're going to get at the end of this. You get a newborn baby. With the adoption process, there's a tremendous amount of unknowns. And I don't know what adoption is like in your home countries within Europe, but in the UK, certainly the children who are up for adoption are not up for adoption because mom's 16 and wants to go back to school or anything like that. They come from really difficult backgrounds, and that's something you need to be prepared for and deal with. And I kind of feel like we've lucked out with my daughter, and I wouldn't risk a second adoption. And also, I want a newborn baby again. Something very special about a newborn. So really, that's Circle, and that's a bit of my story as well. I'm just aware of time. I don't know how much time I've actually got left. I've got a few minutes. Is there any sort of questions from anybody in the audience that you wanted to ask of me? I will be upstairs at my stand, so feel free to come up and have a conversation with me. I'm more than happy to answer anything. Is there any questions in the audience at the moment? Was my speech that comprehensive that nobody has anything to ask? Yes.
How does the whole thing go? Do you follow people from the beginning until the end? Or?
Yeah. So to give you an idea, my son is 5 years old, and Circle is still involved in my life, not because I represent them, but because we're in the process of doing a parental order in the UK, which is pretty much like an expedited adoption process that is available. And Circle are involved and are assisting and helping with that. So it is a start to finish, and we don't consider you finished until both parents have legal rights to the child and the child has got the citizenship or at least the necessary residency in the country in which you choose to live. So we will help and assist with all of that. Come on, there's going to be some more questions. Did you want to ask me?
You said that you had 1,000 surrogates?
Sorry. Yeah. A lot of them will come across the website. Actually, will have seen an episode of Oprah or something like that featuring surrogacy. You've got to understand that surrogacy in the US as well is completely different to the way it is in Europe. It is celebrated over there, and people are more aware of it. Even, my son was born in Denver, Colorado, which is really in the middle of America. And everywhere we went, they just were so excited for us that we were this gay couple from England having a baby in America, and they thought it was incredibly cool. And nobody went, oh, surrogacy, what is that? Or, how much are you paying her or anything. It was genuinely a case of most Americans are aware of surrogacy and know how it works. So some of the surrogates will apply just purely because they will be aware of it and will go and search different agencies and say, I want to be a surrogate. Others could be through word of mouth. We have a lot of referrer friends through our surrogates. They'll recommend, and a lot of times their friends will see how much fun they're having on their journey and kind of go, I want a bit of that. And will apply to be a surrogate. And then the process is relatively simple to start with. That huge tranche of women that come in, the 1,500 roughly, there's certain criteria they have to meet immediately, which is they have to at least have one biological child of their own. And a lot of the women that have applied do not have a child yet, which immediately disqualifies them. And then it just keeps going down the line until we get down to that final 30 or so, and we go through the full psychometric testing and so on. We do criminal background checks, bankruptcy checks, nicotine use, alcohol, drugs, all of that sort of stuff is tested. Then there's also the medical records are reviewed. We don't just rely on the surrogate to say, I had a brilliant pregnancy. She signs a disclaimer to say that we can access her medical records directly from her doctors, and we will review those, and we have people on the team who do that. So we have a matching team. First and foremost, we're looking at the legal issues. We need to make sure that, each country is slightly different. So, German couples, for example, have to have a single surrogate. She cannot be married. So we look at what is legally required for each couple that is in the process of waiting to be matched. But then we also look at personality as well, and we try and match as best as possible. We don't expect you to be best of best friends, but there can be a lot of contentious issues along the way. You could have a situation where your child during pregnancy is tested positive for spina bifida or Down syndrome, and you may wish to terminate that pregnancy. Well, we wouldn't want to have matched you with a surrogate who didn't feel the same way that you do with regards to these things. So from an ethical point of view, we try and find out as much about the surrogate and yourselves, and we will then match you accordingly. So you had another question?
Have you had, in the whole experience you had, encountered problems with between the surrogacy mother and the parents regarding the whole period of the pregnancy? What happens? What doesn't happen? Can she smoke? Can she drink? Those kind of things.
Sure. The screening process is very thorough and it's ongoing as well. So if she was smoking during the pregnancy, we would pick that up on the various tests that she'll go through during the pregnancy. And then she would then be in breach of her contract with you. To be very honest, to answer that in the best possible way, it would take quite some time. But just to put it in perspective, the surrogates don't sign up to be surrogates and then want to try and damage your baby. Our surrogate always said to us that she had 6 children of her own. This was her 7th pregnancy, but she felt so much more responsible for our pregnancy than she ever did for her own, because it wasn't her baby that she was looking after. So that is something that is of concern to people. We do have policies in place in which to address that should it happen, but we've yet to have that actually happen. Not that I'm aware of, no. Are we done? Are we done? One more question. Or not? Okay, I think Ron looks excited.